Hi, I'm Camille.
I'm Celia. Today we invite Camille to my channel for sharing studying abroad life.
Wait, what?
We're classmates. We both studied in MSc marketing in Manchester.
So my name's Camille. I have a Belgian passport, so I'm technically from Belgium. But I grew up in Kenya until I was 10, and then I moved to Belgium for a year, and then I've been living in the UK for about 10 years now.
I feel very interesting in your life because you live in so many different countries. What is the reason that traveling that much?
My dad, he's worked in the past for an international organization, so he's a scientist and he basically travels a lot. Even when I was small, I wouldn't see him a lot because he'd be always on the go and then coming back. And then
You didn't really stay in a place for a long term.
Yeah.
It is hard for you to live independent life.
I think actually the more you do it, the more you're able to make friends and develop an independence. Because when I first moved from Kenya, I think that was probably the hardest part, because I was so used to have lived in Kenya for 10 years. I grew up there. I knew the people since I was a baby. So for me, it was so my brain was kind of what is happening, I had a bit of a cultural shock as well, because even though when I moved to the UK especially, I had a massive cultural shock. You'd wonder why, because I lived in Belgium for 1 year, but I don't know, I think it's because it was so different. Even the UK is very diverse, multiculturally, but I think it's also very hard initially to sort of, get used to another. At least in Belgium I had my family, my cousins and stuff, but here we didn't know anyone, so it was completely, starting on a new slate. I think that was the hardest, but I don't regret the hard difficulties of settling in, because actually you learn so much about yourself.
Like some of my friends, it is hard to live in the country, for example United States or UK, because the culture is so different. Do you have any recommendation?
My recommendations would be, what's good about the UK is that you can find food from anywhere. Yes. And they have so much Asian supermarkets as well, and so many nice things. Find a store, a little treat you like having from home, buy it. Buy the packet of sweets, or because when you're studying it makes you feel a lot better to have what you had when you were a child, or
and you won't be that homesick.
Yeah, exactly. And then balance your university life with activities. For example, I joined salsa and salsa.
The dance,
salsa dancing. So I joined that, and then I'm also doing Italian classes. Finding friends which are not all in my course. Who you meet, the more you might be surprised how many people understand you.
Yeah, it's also one of my advice for every student like you want to study abroad. Kind of used to stay with the same nationality people every day, and we are too scared to step out of our comfort zone and try to different language to different person and know the different culture. We're just too scared to do that. But once you step out of your comfort zone and try to speak different language and try to get to know your nationality class, you will find that you can really learn a lot from them.
So good about the university in the UK is that everyone is from everywhere.
Yes.
And, I could go to Brazil, I can go to Hong Kong, I can go to Taiwan, I can go
because you've got so many friends
exactly.
in
I
different
can
countries.
go anywhere, and I know someone, and that's what's nice.
I can see that your English are quite good. Are you native English?
Yeah.
Your native English?
No. Well, I actually my native language is French. I learned it from my parents, so my native language is French. I basically have been to in British school since I was very small. So my English, I learned it from when I grew up in Kenya, and then obviously basically as I've moved, I've always had to learn new languages. But I've never really finished them fully, apart from Spanish. So I'd say Spanish is my third. I did 6 years of Spanish in high school.
6 years?
Yes. So I'd say my Spanish is pretty good. There's always room for improvement, and the grammar is
sorry, I have
getting
a question.
worse. But yeah.
In Taiwan, a lot of students choose Japanese or Korean as their third language.
Yeah.
And how about the situation here in the UK?
Here it's Spanish and French and German.
Spanish
and German as well, because those are the closest. And also they're the languages most used, because the European Union uses French and English, and then Spanish is spoken by so many different South Americans. But actually there's become more of a trend towards Asian languages. So a lot of people so a lot of people are learning Mandarin, and I know a lot of my friends as well, they love Japanese. They're learning Japanese.
One thing I found very interesting is a lot of my friends, they're crazy about Japan because of their culture is quite special, and also the comic, the manga.
Yes, the mangas. Yeah, that's
culture.
right. Yeah, and also like I have a lot of friends who also enjoy like K-pop, like
K-pop.
Yeah.
K-pop is so popular.
They love that as well. Yeah.
Do you have any tips for us to learning?
I think for me to learn Spanish, and I actually based it on my parents' tips. So my parents would tell me that they put on the radio, so listen to the BBC. Learn a lot just by listening. And also I love Italian and Spanish music. It really maintains your language, and especially when you're starting to learn the language, after when you play the music, just to relax, you're like, oh, I've heard that word, and then you recall.
So because I learned Spanish and French when I was an undergrad too. I want to start to do my Spanish or French homework, I would just turn on the Spotify and click the French top playlist, immerse myself in the atmosphere of different language.
And it's nice. Read about the culture as well, because you can learn so much about the culture through like reading it, and even better, read it in English or like try,
try the different language. Last question I want to ask is, a lot of people ask me how to make friends with different nationality people.
Like you think that, oh no, I have to like drink and stuff, but you don't. Actually, it's just in the first year as well, and then people kind of like calm down. And when you're a master's student, it's just like
master students don't drink. Like in my flat, we are all master students, and every time we just look through the window to another flat, that flat is undergrad.
Yeah, exactly.
They got like thousands of bottles of alcohol, and our flat is like one vodka and never opened it.
But it's usually like undergraduate, but even then, you don't have to. I wasn't like a party animal anyways in my first year here when I was doing my bachelor's.
And your flatmate would still drag you to the club?
Yeah, they would still, but I didn't have to drink. If you have a hobby you love doing, then I absolutely recommend that to join the group. And if you're not sure what is your hobby, that's okay, because I discovered that as well. I actually developed my photography in my first internship, which I did in Ethiopia. One of my images was actually like shared a lot, and it's used by the company as like one of the main photos. From there, I sort of decided that I actually quite like photojournalism, and I really enjoy like cultures and discovering different people's cultures. I think visuals can really explain that. I always realize that when I travel, you want to share all these things with the people you love, and the way I do that is through my photography, and I want to share it, and I want people to sort of
feel the emotion.
Exactly, to feel the emotion, and not only in the picture itself, but the writing, and people don't really have a voice towards the media, and I want everyone to be able to express themselves and like tell their story. And I think that's the whole point of traveling, discovering other people's stories and their life. So I say join that, because buying a camera and like working once in the university has made me a passionate photographer.
Try to join in a society to find other people who share the common interest with you, so you can not only make friends but also build your confidence.
Yeah, and learn about yourself.
Thank you for coming
to my pleasure.
In the end, we would like to share some photography
about my photography page. Then you can go on @KoalaCamera.
We'll post a link here.
Have a look at the photos, and under each photo I write a paragraph of either the country, about my experience of it.
Can you share one of
for example, this picture, it was actually in an exhibition in America. So I entered it in a competition for who are we, like to explain who we are as humans. For me, this picture kind of shows that, because it's basically based on Bahir Dar, which is in Ethiopia in the north. There is Lake Tana there. And I thought that this person looked very delicate, and they were just like staring at the lake, and they were there for like a very, very long time. And with this picture, when I shot it, it made me think about everyone on that next to the river was doing something different. Some people were washing themselves, some people were playing in the water, some people were like sitting, and it made me realize how each of our lives are like so very different. When we come together, you actually realize that they're all doing the same thing. They're all around the lake. I guess that's what made me realize that actually when we come together, then we're all the same. Yeah, and then mainly there's a lot, so I have an Ethiopia series, then the China series, which I'm posting like every day. If you want to buy one of my pictures on a shirt, then send me a message and I will upload it to my shop, and you can have one of my pictures on a shirt, which actually, it's pretty cool. So currently you can actually get a t-shirt with my most popular ones. This picture.
那以上就是这一集的访问啦，很谢谢你们的收看。
那我们就
下一集再见啦，拜拜。